Welcome back, everyone. My name is Danny Lachmandas. I'm host of the Talent Tap podcast, founder of Printalo. We help staffing and recruiting agencies generate consistent qualified client opportunities through an AI-powered growth engine. Drop growth in the comments if you want to learn how we can help scale your staffing and recruiting agency. And today with us, we have Eric Edelsberg, Vice President and Partner at CultureFit. How you doing, Eric?
I'm good, Danny. Thanks for having me.
Good. Where are you calling in from today?
Greater Chicagoland. It is cold here.
Nice, nice. Yeah, I can imagine. It's been cold in Nashville too, but we're starting to warm up. So Eric, tell me a little bit about yourself, your background, how you got to where you are today, and what Culture Fit does and what you do in the business.
Yeah, absolutely. Born and bred in the Midwest. I did a lot of my growing up. I am an Indiana University, a Bloomington alumni. So obviously, great football season for us. Excited about that. And actually, post college, I majored in sports broadcasting. So I was set to do that for my career. I thought that once I figured out that I wasn't going to be a professional athlete, which was pretty early on in my life, pretty athletic, but don't have the genetics for a lot of professional sports. So I wanted to do something in sports, got into sports broadcasting, really liked it, but very, very competitive field. And at the time when I came out of college, there weren't nearly as many opportunities as there are today with all the different media forums and outlets that are out there. So I actually got into recruiting right out of college. For a little while, ran a full desk, did sales, account management, and recruiting in a lot of different the different industries. And then pivoted, went into commercial real estate for a while. And when the commercial real estate market crashed, I found my way back into recruiting at the end of the day. So what we do at Culture Fit, we are a boutique white glove national recruiting firm. We have a heavy market share in greater Chicago. That's really Milwaukee down to the city of Chicago and surrounding suburbs. But we recruit and partner with organizations coast to coast. I've got clients in California and New York, obviously a ton in greater Chicago and in many other parts of the country. Our job is to make critical hiring needs, that hiring process as efficient as possible at the end of the day. We do a lot of
Yeah.
direct hire, permanent recruiting for organizations. We do some long-term contract and contract to hire as well, but it doesn't really matter the logistics, right? We want to make that process efficient. And there's a lot of ways that we do that, but that's essentially the methodology behind what we do. We're industry and size agnostic, so it doesn't really matter if you're, a 10-person startup or, you've got 80,000 employees and you're a Fortune 250 company, right? It's more about the
Yeah.
relationship and the partnership that we're building, not only within the organization, but specific to that hiring team. So it's a little bit about who we are and what we do.
Yeah, and just in business in general, building relationships is so key and such a core element of having a successful business and building that longevity with your clients and running a business for a good amount of years. And when you say boutique, do you have some examples of some businesses that you have worked with or that you do in the boutique, I guess, section?
Yeah, so when I say boutique, I'm really talking about the structure of our organization internally at Culture.
Okay.
We're a small company. We are not hundreds or thousands of employees. We're a small select group. Built the organization internally with people that have a lot of experience in recruiting in the areas that we service. So we do a lot of technology, accounting and finance, sales, marketing, and operations roles, really white collar positions, right? People that are making on a base salary perspective, low end, let's say 60 or $70,000 a year, in the upper end, maybe 300,000 plus. Right? Say like our average job that we're working on is probably about $150,000 from a base salary perspective. So we're small internally. We've got incredible, I think, unmatched tenure in the industry from person to person that's inside our organization. But boutique also means, to me at least, really how our relationships and partnerships are structured. I mentioned white glove approach, right? We're high touch. We're incredibly transparent, right? Recruiting is an interesting space, an industry to be in because you are selling a service, right? You're not selling a product, you're selling a service. If we were selling our product would be people, right? But that is our service offering. People are very unique and wildly unpredictable, right? So this is
That's
it's a space where it's never going to be perfect. And I think
yeah.
one way that we really set ourselves apart is how we go about that partnership piece what our communication cadence tendencies look like. We are not somebody, we're not an organization that if we engage on a search that you're not going to hear from. Right. We're going to let you know what's going on, where we're at, pitfalls, hurdles, successes, failures, etc. Right. So that's really what boutique means to me overall.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's nice that y'all are a small organization and you focus on your clients' needs, and placing the better talent, right? I mean, people say the hardest resource in the world to manage is humans, right? Staffing is very hard. It's hard to find good staff, and it's hard to keep that staff, right? It's one thing to find the staff and then to have that staff stay on and work long term. It's a very challenging thing to do. I can imagine. I've struggled with staff my whole life in my own businesses. It's kind of what drew me to helping the staffing and recruiting industry, was seeing my family struggle with staffing, and myself struggle with staffing our whole lives.
Yeah, for sure. It's a difficult proposition, right? It just, not like you said, not only finding good talent, finding quality talent, but finding talent that has a better probability of staying long term, which is something that we also specialize in.
Yeah. What are some of the biggest challenges you've observed companies facing when trying to integrate new talent into an existing culture, and how does Culture Fit address those?
Yeah. Great questions. I think, some of the challenges that I see organizations that we support have is specifically from kind of an environment culture perspective. I think there can be very different opinions internally within one organization of what that culture and environment actually is like, right? I think it's really hard to define for a lot of organizations what is their culture, what do they want to hang their hat on from like what their environment is like, right? And it's one thing to say it, it's another thing to carry it out, right? So that becomes difficult. I mean, what typically if I'm engaged with a new organization and you know, I ask a hiring leader or an HR talent acquisition person internally there, what is their culture like? I get very vanilla answers and it's almost all the same stuff. We're collaborative, we're team oriented, there's room for growth. Everywhere we treat everybody like we're family. These just kind of blanket statements like what does that really mean? Right at the end of the day. And almost like literally 90+% of hiring leaders that I talk to, if I've never worked with them before, that is how they will define their culture,
Yeah.
using that exact verbiage. So if everybody's saying that, right, what are your differentiators and what do you really want your culture to be? And what is it today? Because a enormous part of employee tenure does have to do with the culture and environment that you have, and does that individual actually like it, right? You're not going to stay with somebody, you're not going to date and stay with somebody that you don't ultimately like, that you're not aligned with. It's the same thing in the labor market, right? Today. So people really struggle with that. And I just advise organizations like that's a full-time job to define really what your culture is. And you need to talk to your people, right? And obviously, the bigger the organization, the harder that is going to be defined, but it's not necessarily going to be, super consistent necessarily throughout the entire organization. You could have an engineering department that is very different from a sales department within the same organization. I think kind of defining and redefining what your culture is specific to the team and the people that where you're doing the hiring, where that person's going to work is super critical. How do we help solve that for companies? We talk about it. I think you have to talk about it. I'm not in a position, nor do I want to be in a position to define another organization's culture. I can tell you that when I interview and I do all the hiring for Culture Fit, right? I can talk very, very specifically about what our culture is like. And while I might say, something like, we're very collaborative as a group, I then am going to define that in an incredibly granular way. What that looks like for me. What does collaborative mean to me? Because we do have to be collaborative at Culture Fit. But what does that mean? And what does that look like from a process perspective? I will define that for candidates at interview with Culture Fit because I want to know that they understand what they're getting into and what I mean by that very general vanilla blanketed statement.
Yeah, yeah. It's interesting that it's one thing to find good talent, but then what if you find good talent that wants to work and has good work ethic, but the company you're finding them for is not the greatest company, right? So that's the flip side, right? Of finding talent for a company that might not be the greatest company out there, and it's not something that, I've really thought about, I guess, because there's so many companies out there, and not every company is equal, not every company has the same values, so even if you do find the best talent, you might not be matching them with the greatest company, I assume.
Yeah, and one of the keys for sure is just making sure that, like, we understand what, what the culture is, because I would say that, I could be working with 3 separate companies maybe in the same space, let's say financial services. And let's say hypothetically they're all looking for, you know, a developer with the same technical skill set. I might deliver 3 candidates to them, and they might rank those 3 candidates very differently in terms of what they think that the talent is, right? I think the bigger key from that culture and environment piece is, like, understanding who you are internally and being honest with yourself. And then if you're going to use a recruiting partner like CultureFit, you got to be honest with them. Nobody's perfect. No company's
Uh-huh.
perfect. And even if you hypothetically think you are perfect, somebody else is going to find something wrong or something that they don't like about your company, right? So I think making sure that you have consistency throughout what you think you're looking for and what you think fits in, soft skill wise, environmentally, et cetera. And then making sure that you are actually communicating that, whether you're doing the recruiting yourself, right? And you're communicating that directly to the candidates, or you're using a recruiting partner and communicating to the
Yeah.
recruiting partner.
Yeah. Yeah. With the increasing adoption of AI in the workplace, how do you see AI influencing company culture, both positively and negatively in the coming years?
Yeah, from a positive perspective, and I think, we're just kind of starting to realize what AI can do, right? And I think more people are adopting that into their day to day. One big positive thing is if you use it for some things that, AI is very good at right now, you save a ton of time, right? Just efficiency, right? It can be very helpful with, like, writing things in a professional tone or telling what type of tone, to AI that you want to spit out, right? As opposed to you crafting an email, editing it, re-editing it 1,000 times, right? AI is great for that. And so I think, there's definitely time saving opportunities within AI across almost any industry for some things that
Uh-huh.
you're doing from a scope of responsibility perspective.
Yeah.
So, being more efficient is something that I'm obsessive over. I'm somebody that would love to, do what I do now in a 40-hour week and do it in 20 hours. And AI can definitely
Yeah.
solve that, right? So I think that's a huge positive. Some of the negatives is we really don't know the full capabilities of AI. And I think some people and a lot of organizations, AI is the hottest trending topic right now, right? They're adopting way too much, way too quick. And they don't understand what they're really buying it for or why they're really leveraging it. And so it can create confusion. In my world, you have a lot of people now, individuals that are using AI to create resumes, right? And
Huh?
depending upon how you're leveraging AI and what you're telling the AI to do, companies are now getting confused with hiring because a lot of the resumes are speaking very directly towards that job, towards that scope of responsibilities, because candidates can easily just say, like, hey, put this in, match my scope of responsibilities with the job or whatever. And so now every candidate looks good on paper. Well,
Uh,
have those candidates really done the things that they're saying they do in the resume, or is it AI talking, right? So it can create a lot of confusion, and definitely does in the world that I so that can be viewed. And I think for as of right now, it's definitely a negative in the recruiting, staffing, and hiring industry.
yeah, and with you saying how every resume seems to be written by AI now, I think that's where in the staffing and recruiting industry, the human touch is still very much needed. That the human needs to go in and still vet the candidates and talk to them and kind of see if their resume is kind of showing what the resume says, right? That's why I don't believe AI can fully take over yet in any industry. But like you said, AI is making things much quicker. Things that take 40 hours are taking 20 hours. And in life, time is the biggest commodity. If we could get time back, we could spend more time with our families, or our business could grow quicker. When you save time on menial tasks like admin, emails, then you can focus in other areas of the business to kind of drive the growth, right? Because I mean, the emails are there, but it is things that take a lot of time. Whether you're paying someone to do it or you're doing it yourself, you're not able to scale and grow as quickly, right? So AI is the biggest thing, like you said, is helping with time, save time, efficiency is the biggest areas I would say, but I do still believe that the human touch is still needed to be there to make the work.
100% agree with that.
Yeah. Another question I've got is, as AI automates more tasks, how do you anticipate the roles of human employees evolving and what kind of cultural shifts will be necessary to support the evolution?
Yeah, I mean, I think it is again very specific to industry. Let's take like a wealth manager as an example, right? I'm sure I'm not a wealth manager myself, but I am sure there are some tasks that could be automated. And I'm sure there's a lot of data models out there in terms of like, what that wealth manager should be doing if their one of their clients wants to be super aggressive in the market or super conservative or whatever, right? But I think the world that we live in now is still, and I think somewhat reverting back to like when I was a kid, it still is who you know, networking, and that's how people are making buying decisions, right? I happen to use financial advisor, wealth manager, whatever you want to call it. I have forever. I use somebody that my parents use, that my parents use. Now, the people internally have changed, the same company, right? And the relationships have kind of trickled down from generation to generation. I have more inherent trust in that person, in those people. It's a team of people, right? That are managing my money than the 800,000 other people in the United States that could probably do this too, right? And my
Huh?
buying decision to leverage them is based off the relationship. I just actually changed insurance agents, and the insurance company that represents me for my auto policies and my homeowner's insurance. Why did I make that change? A good friend of mine has used this individual broker for years. He also was able to save me money, right? But the broker that I used to use, he retired, sold his business to somebody else, right? I didn't have a relationship with that new person who took over. Nothing against the new person, but I feel more comfortable picking up the phone and calling somebody, even though I don't have an extended relationship. A good friend of mine does, right? And so that connection helps. This is still a who you know world. And I think buying decisions are still going to reflect that over a ton of different industries, no matter what you're.
Yeah, no, I agree. A lot of my has come from who I know, word of mouth. Building my network of people and building relationships has gotten me farther in business than anything else has, whether it be ads on Meta or, cold email, cold calling, the places those relationships have taken me farther than anything else. So that is something I agree with because I've seen it in my own life over and over again. Are there specific AI applications that CultureFit is exploring or implementing to enhance employee experience or foster a more inclusive culture?
I mean, I've vet out like all the software tools that we use. I've vetted a lot. Right now, we use it very sparingly. Again, I think one of the differentiators for us and why organizations like to partner with us is because we do have that human touch experience. One area that we use it a lot, it's not a specific tool. We can use chat, we can use Claude, we can use a lot of the other ones that are out there that either have, the free services or the enterprise services for business, is taking a conversation that one of my recruiters has with a candidate, or somebody like me or one of my sales account managers has with a hiring team, and essentially summarizing that conversation, right? And
Yeah,
putting it in a very easily digestible format and flow. A lot of times when you're having conversations, whether you're a recruiter talking with candidates, you're an account manager talking with a client, you're trying to have a conversation and you're trying to build rapport, but you're also trying to feverishly type down like everything that's being said, right? AI is a great tool for that. So that's something that we've adopted and leveraged. And I think that improves our employee experience because I'm encouraging and almost mandating people to do that internally for Culture Fit because it just saves you a ton of time, right? I just like, I don't want you to go back and re-edit your notes if you're a recruiter to tag one of our salespeople saying, "Hey, I talked to this great candidate for this role I'm recruiting on for us and for the account manager for our client." Right? There's no need. Type it
yeah.
down, copy paste it, put it in an AI tool, it spits it out perfectly. So that's something that I think is incredibly helpful for us.
And it goes back to that saving time. It saves you, I'm sure, saves you a great amount of time that you can then spend on anything else that you need to spend on within the business.
Absolutely.
Many businesses are looking to use AI to have a competitive advantage. It seems like every business is gunning for it now. It's kind of everywhere you see on the news. Every website you go to has some kind of AI search engine or AI tool. Well, what are some of the key challenges companies face when trying to integrate AI solutions into their existing operational frameworks?
Yeah, I think I'll go back to what I said earlier, and then I'll piggyback off that. It's like, is the company ready for it? Right? Are they prepared?
Yeah, yeah,
Because if they're not prepared, if you don't have people internally that have experience with it or understand what the end game is, right? What's the goal
huh?
here? What are we trying to do? Then you're just going to be spending money, and it's going to do the opposite of what we've just talked about. Same time, it's going to cost you time. It's going to cost you
Yeah,
money. It's going to cost you time if there's not, you know, clear line of communication and experience behind, okay, we've adopted this
using
new
it.
AI tool. This is why we want to use it. Right. So it's just, and I think it's tough. It's like, it's a tough environment. I think the AI piece of where we are now, I'm going to relate it back to something that I remember well. It's really like the adoption of computers and laptops for everyday use. Right.
The internet, right? Yeah,
Right, the internet, right, yeah, essentially the internet, right? It's like when I was growing up, yes, cell phones were there. I didn't have this, right? This computer that fits in my hand, right? Where I have access to everything in the world. I mean, I'm not that old, but I was into my like late 20s before I think I got an iPhone. I had the BlackBerry before that, and before that I had the flip
yeah,
phone, right? And before that,
yeah,
like I didn't even get a cell phone. I had a pager when I turned 16. So like that adoption and that use, it was confusing for a while, right? And people didn't really know how to attack the internet or what benefits it could have, how it could save companies and employees time and money. I think we're kind of at the same place right now as we were maybe in like the early 90s, right? As it relates to the computer and internet with AI specifically. So it's going to continue to be a challenge for organizations until AI continues to evolve, people continue to adopt AI into specific responsibilities and just general tasks, right? I actually saw a buddy of mine post on LinkedIn recently how he used AI and talked to AI to basically plan a family vacation, right? And it was a huge time saver for him. I was like, oh, that's a great idea. I never thought of using AI that way, like, previously, and maybe I'll do that, right? But this whole evolution of AI is going to take time because the reality of it is, I think the vast majority of working Americans that, are in a job right now certainly aren't leveraging AI to its fullest capabilities and probably don't know how to.
yeah. That's why I believe we're still very early in the AI world, in the AI rush and everything. I think it's very early here. I think it is a lot like the internet. If you went around and you asked someone today, have you ever used a computer? Have you ever used the internet? How many people do you think would say no? Probably uh, no one. You
Yeah.
might not find a single person, right?
Yeah.
So I think within 10 years, it's going to be the same with AI. I heard someone the other day say, I'm not scared of AI replacing my job. I'm scared of someone that is trained on how to use AI replacing my job. So
Yeah.
I I think that again, I have friends, I know people, I talk to people all the time that are anti-AI. They hate it. They don't want nothing to do with it. They think it's going to take their job. When, like I said, in reality, AI is best used and most efficiently used by someone that knows how to use it, right? And those are the people that I think are going to get ahead in the next few years. You have to be cautious with it, of course, but shying away from it also completely, I don't think is the greatest idea. I think you need to learn about it and get trained on it. And I think in the future, those are the jobs that are going to be up and coming, right? Businesses want to adopt AI. And like you said, most people just don't know how. So they're going to start looking for people that know how to use it and are trained on how to use it, right?
Yeah.
That's my take on it.
I completely agree with that. I think one example that just popped in my head, something that I actually use AI for, CultureFit, is we have contracts that we sign with organizations. A lot of times that it's called a master services agreement, right? That contract, is our way to confirm once it's signed that we get paid, right? Once a company hires from us, I don't have internal legal counsel. Again, we're small, right, at our organization.
Yeah.
A lot of times we use that is CultureFits. That's ours that I've created that I have gotten legal counsel on. But some companies, especially larger organizations, they have their own. I use AI to compare and contrast. What should I be on the lookout for here? What are the differences? And to quickly get that summarization, not only efficiency, but that's super helpful for me, right? If hypothetically, and this hasn't happened in my 15 years at CultureFit, I were to get sued by a company, do you think I would just leverage AI? No, I would go find an attorney, right?
Yeah.
That knows what the heck they're doing to understand, everything in and around that lawsuit. So again, I think it gets back to your point, leveraging AI, understanding how to leverage it, and where do you leverage the human component as well?
Yeah, yeah, 100%. Um, to close this out, I have one more question for you. And it's if you could use AI to solve one major problem in the realm of organizational culture or talent management today, what would it be and why?
It's a great question. I think as it relates to my business, it would actually be business development. Business development has gotten a lot more complicated. It is very, very different now than it even was in like 2020 and 21. And I think it's this moving target that we're not exactly sure how to solve. Business development for many organizations is a key driver, if not the key driver, to the success of the overall organization, right? And for
Huh.
a company like CultureFit, we've got a huge target audience of people that could leverage our services. How do we get that messaging out to the masses in today's day and age is a very complicated issue. So that I would love for that AI to solve that problem.
Yeah, yeah, that
From a culture perspective of like organizations, I don't know if AI is in a position necessarily to solve culture and environment issues. I still think that as of right now, where AI is, that's a human to human thing, and that's still going to be a problem that's going to be solved by human beings as of right now.
yeah, yeah. Um, that's great. Business development is something that a lot of people definitely struggle with, even in my own businesses. It is always a challenge, and if you're a business owner and you want to grow, right? You want to grow. You want to challenge yourself, and ultimate goal, you want to make more money, and hopefully give your business a better reputation, right? Form those strong relationships, and that's all part of the business development. But yeah, that's all we have for today, guys. Really enjoyed Eric being on with us. Maybe we'll have him on again sometime. Thanks for coming on, Eric.
Yeah, thanks for
And
having me.
we'll catch y'all on the next episode. I plan on dropping these every Monday and doing shorts throughout the week on my socials. Catch everyone next time. Thank you.